It's Tuesday, June 18. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The National Water Commission, NWC, is reporting that the water level at the Hermitage Dam in St. Andrew continues to improve. It has increased to more than 80% of capacity, coming from 36% in May. 2 weeks ago, the catchment facility was at 65.8% of capacity. Meanwhile, the water level at the Mona Reservoir has inched up to 39% of capacity despite recent rainfall. NWC Corporate Communications Manager Charles Buchanan says in the case of the Mona Reservoir, the rate of increase has been slow and it has stalled over the past few days. However, Mr. Buchanan is hopeful that some more rainfall that would enable us to continue to improve the levels at those facilities. He said supply to NWC customers will still be restricted. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says public health officers are routinely screening visitors to the island for measles in a bid to stave off the probability of importing the disease to the island. There has not been an outbreak of measles in Jamaica since the 1970s, when administering the MMR vaccine, MMR1 at 12 months and MMR2 at 18 months, became routine. But Tufton says the risk of imported cases is great as a result of international travel. Dr. Tufton told the press on Monday that he remains very concerned about the epidemic, which has hit 1,000 mark in the United States and which accounted for 37 deaths across Europe in 2018. New York has been the center of the U.S. measles outbreak. The St. Catherine Health Department says it has identified the source of the rat infestation at the Spanish Town Hospital and has taken steps to eliminate the problem. Chief Public Health Officer for the parish, Grayson Hutchinson, said the management of the hospital has implemented the recommendations of the department and the problem will be brought under control soon. Delivering the medical officer of health report at the monthly general meeting of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation last week, he said that 83 base stations have been set up and are being monitored. Trees on the compound that facilitated the presence of roof rats were cut down. External openings have been sealed off. Doors are fixed with self-closing devices, and old furniture and appliances stored in some areas have been removed. Venezuelan oil subsidiary PBCJ is demanding that the government of Jamaica pay a minimum of US $50 million. That's 6.5 billion Jamaican dollars in core share value as compensation for the forcible takeover of its 49% stake in local refinery PETROJAN. The Jamaican government's initial offer of $40 million was rejected by Venezuela, and a later proposal of $50 million also refused. Jamaica's Foreign Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith, also acknowledged that the government has received communication from Venezuela. However, she said no lawsuit has been filed. Through the Compulsory Acquisition Shares in PETROJAN Limited Act 2019, the Jamaican government gave itself powers to acquire the shares owned by Venezuela in PETROJAN. Energy Minister Favour Williams, who replaced Andrew Wheatley on February 14, said PETROJAN's market value was eroded by nearly $100 million because of a decade of broken promises, delays, and inaction by the Venezuelan government. She told Parliament that PETROJAN's market value was listed at between US $126 million and US $128 million by Muse Stansel in 2006, when Jamaica signed a joint venture agreement with Petróleos de Venezuela, Venezuela's state-owned oil company and parent to PBCJ, which was expected to finance a major upgrade of the 55-year-old refinery, among other things. But Williams said that an evaluation carried out in 2018 by the same consultants listed PETROJAN's market value at $34 million. The government of Jamaica is investigating the circumstances of 4 Jamaican fishermen who were detained by the United States Coast Guard and abused. The men were held in September 2017. Speaking in the Senate last Friday in response to concerns from opposition members, Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith says the matter is being probed. Last week, the U.S. media revealed that a lawsuit was filed by the American Civil Liberties Union in a U.S. court seeking to redress for the Jamaicans. The ACLU says the Coast Guard seized the fishermen, set their boat on fire, and shot it up. According to the union, the U.S. Coast Guard held the men in inhumane conditions, and they were also denied access to shelter, basic sanitation, proper food, and medical care. Opposition Senator K.D. Knight had questioned whether the detention breached any agreements between both countries.
Where did this incident commence? And was it from your information in breach of any agreement between the United States of America and Jamaica? If so, which agreement?
We are not in possession of any information which would allow us to answer the questions posed by Senator Knight, and would simply note that we continue to inquire about the matter, as I have said, both from government agencies and through our consulates to find out the circumstances. As I indicated, the only issue on which we are clear regarding what you just raised is that the matter took place in Haitian waters. We have no Haitian waters. We have no other information at this point in time other than what has been set out in the case documents. The matter is before the court, and we therefore have to be quite sensitive about how we address those things. So, Mr. President, I have indicated that we are inquiring further to see if there is anything else which we can or should do, but at this point, we are, I can only state the matters which I have set out earlier.
Minister Johnson-Smith says she's not in a position to say whether the detention of the Jamaicans by U.S. authorities may have breached any agreement between both countries. Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, says progress has been made in clearing the backlog of the traffic ticketing system. Dr. Jones says tickets, which number in the thousands, have been unnecessarily clogging the system. He says a meeting was held on Friday with National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang to discuss the matter. He's reporting that some progress in terms of trying to sort out what is called failed tickets, those tickets that are either not recorded as being paid because there's some mismatch between the driver's license and the ticket, or between the offense and the ticket number. He says having dealt with those matters, it's about 300,000 of them. About 60,000 were left. Dr. Jones said the authorities are trying to determine if the 60,000 tickets fall in the unpaid category in order to ensure that there is a clean system and that the judges can sign the warrants without reservations. Executive Director of the Students' Loan Bureau, the SLB, Monica Brown, says a submission has been made to the board for approval for the funding of short certificate courses. She made the remarks during a recent higher education summit held at Mona Visitors Lodge at the University of the West Indies. She noted that the SLB has been funding courses for a minimum of 2 years. So based on recent consideration, they're going to be funding shorter courses. Each year, the SLB received 13,000 to 14,000 applications from students who belong to tertiary institutions, 60% from returning students, and 40% from new applicants. She says the approval rate each year is approximately 98%, and that over the last 5 years, there has been a slight decline in the number of applications received. Ms. Brown points to the challenges for some persons who have difficulty getting jobs because of the number of persons who are qualified in these areas. In the past 10 years, the SLB has provided loans to 80,000 students at a value of $24 billion. The University of the West Indies, UWI, will formally inform the Antigua and Barbuda government later this week that the island has been chosen as the location for the Regional Tertiary Institution's 4th landed campus. Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown made the announcement on radio recently. Brown told radio listeners that he had been in discussions with UWI Vice-Chancellor Sir Hilary Beckles on the issue. Brown says following the announcement by the UWI, an implementation committee will be established by the university. Brown said the 3 campus countries, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados, which had concerns about the 4th landed campus, have now been satisfied. $17.8 million is being spent on the government's adaptation program and financing mechanism for the pilot program for Climate Resilience Jamaica. The project was approved in December 2014, and the overall objective of the project is to increase Jamaica's resilience to climate change through enhancing adaptive capacity across priority sectors. Our team tagged along with one of the teams working on one part of the project in Clarendon, surveying the Rio Mino River. The river overflowed its banks in 2017 after 72 hours of rainfall. In May 2017, Jamaica experienced one of the most intense rain events in its recent history. Roadways were blocked, bridges damaged, and farms and homes destroyed. Continuous rainfall caused flooding in 12 of Jamaica's 14 parishes. Clarendon was worst hit. The Rio Mino River, Jamaica's longest river at a length of 92.8 kilometers, is the main source of surface water in the parish of Clarendon. So we're sitting along the riverbank in a place called Pennance, Clarendon, where a group from the University of the West Indies Geological Department is measuring the width and depth of the riverbed. Now, measuring the width and depth of the riverbed is important in the grand scheme of things because we can use this data along with others collected to design an early alert flooding system. The main objective of the team is to conduct mapping of soils, debris flows, earth flows, landslides, as well as geological and geomorphological mapping.
We are measuring the channel at different sections along the river. This is the spot where Pennance is. Well, this locality is called Pennance. This was flooded in 2017. From the raw data collected, when plotted, we can show you what is the capacity of the channel. So if this gets filled up with water, we can tell you what volume of water can this channel hold. And if it is more than that X amount, it will spill. It is not repetitive of work which has been done before. It is not based on existing data, but it is actual field data collected on the spot before and after an event. An actual sediment size, so it is adding to the database of raw data which is then be processed.
This is the second set of surveys being done by the team. Having logged the movement of sediments, it has been found that the largest movement so far is upstream.
And the largest movement we've seen so far is in the Ballards River, which is a tributary of it's just upstream actually from here. Tributary of the Rio Mino. And I think there, upstream of that, there's a very susceptible slope which is susceptible to soil erosion. And I think material is getting into the channel and it's scouring a little bit around the material. So that's the main thing we've seen so far. Only little minor changes. I think we're hoping to see some larger changes if there's a flood event.
Normally, the next step for us is to do some sediment collection, and today what we'll be doing is a collection of the armor. The armor is a covering of rocks on the surface right across the channel.
The key is to analyze movement of rock type from one location following a landslide.
It helps the people in the community a lot about the flooding in the area and the changes in the weather type across this region. Some, maybe even the farmers, because you can see you have cane across there. So maybe influence them in how they prepare their land for their crops.
The Meteorological Service of Jamaica has also joined in the effort to collect data to assist with mapping. So we're at a weather station right here at Clarendon College, and I'm speaking with Mr. Adrian Shaw. He's from the Meteorological Service. Thanks so very much for agreeing to speak with us, Mr. Shaw.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so we're standing by the weather station right now. To me, it's just a pole with some equipment, but could you explain to our viewers exactly what it is and what it does?
All right, so this is a Davis automatic weather station. This is an improvement from our manual rain gauge. So the manual rain gauge would require someone to read it at 7 a.m. every morning. So getting out of bed early, right, or rain or shine, to read the rain gauge, one reading per day. What the automatic weather station does is that it gives take measurements of rainfall every 1 hour, so interval, so there are more data coming in, plus there are more parameters being measured. So not only rainfall, we now have temperature, wind direction, wind speed, relative humidity, and so on.
That can be used with the erosion sites. So what was the daily condition, what was the monthly data, and how much is the erosion level, so we can make a correlation, rainfall and erosion, rainfall runoff. And also, we don't have a lot of automated weather stations in Jamaica, which is very important for forecasting, because if you have daily data, you have a 24-hour accumulated rainfall at the end of the day. So you miss the peak when the storm is there. But if you have hourly data and you take the data after the event, you know when the storm passes and when you've gone down, so you can do it in warning and early warning or forecasting. So that's very important.
Efforts to combat the effects of climate change on Jamaica continues. In regional news, OECS leaders opened their annual summit in Antigua on Monday with calls for greater unity and praise to St. Vincent and the Grenadines on its recent election to a non-permanent position at the United Nations Security Council.
We falter not when we act in unity, but when others cajole us into disunity. None should be allowed to entice us from our joint path or to induce us from our collective ambition. If the last 38 years of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States has taught us one powerful lesson, or a compelling lesson, it is that our salvation lies in our solidarity. It is a lesson we should not forget, a lesson we should not discount. We have survived these last 3.5 decades of exogenous shocks, of major and devastating natural disasters, of imported economic recession, because solidarity made us strong.
Speaking on regional travel, Prime Minister Gaston Brown said the OECS member states should come together and build LIAT as a pillar of the region's single space.
Now, it is time that we acknowledge LIAT for what it is. And in essence, LIAT is an essential service to the OECS and a regional good of irreplaceable significance. My dear brother Ralph have said from time to time, if you collapse LIAT, you'll have to reinvent it. It is irreplaceable. So no matter what you call it, if you call it Barbados Airways, it doesn't matter. We have to have regional transportation, regional connectivity. So LIAT is quintessential. Antigua and Barbuda is determined to keep LIAT in the Caribbean skies where it belongs and in which it has earned its place.
In other news, Guyana's opposition leader PETROJAN has put his supporters on standby to take to the streets to press the government to call for early elections, pending a CCJ ruling on the issue today.
Go back on the streets. We'll have to get the international community to put pressure on them. We'll have to do every single thing to ensure that they hold early elections, that they don't use GCOM as an excuse because they're scared of elections. So they've been hearing too what we've been hearing, that people are fed up with them. So on Tuesday, on Wednesday, get your boots like Harry Gill, colorful boots like Harry Gill, and get ready to walk the streets. We're going to put the pressure on them, the squeeze on them.
The court must decide whether 33 votes were enough to pass the no confidence motion on December 21st, or whether an extra vote was required for a majority in the 65-seat House. If the CCJ ruling does not go in the favor of the PPP, Jagdeo said it simply means that elections will be delayed by a few months.
If it goes against us, which will be perverse, it's not a problem too, because as a seasoned political party, we have to be ready for everything. It just means the elections will be delayed a few months more. So I know people say, God, another year of these people, and that's the mood across Guyana. But we will still be campaigning, we'll still be working, and one thing has to be inevitable. Every single Guyanese must play a role in getting rid of these people.
Jagdeo urged supporters not to lose hope.
The oldest political party, Chedi Jagan's party, we can't just give up hope if the decision goes against us. We expect it to go in our favor. All the arguments are solid in our favor. We expect that. But anything could happen in this life, and therefore we'll just be as strong and just as ready, whatever the outcome is on Tuesday.
In sports, Jamaica kicked off their 2019 CONCACAF Gold Cup campaign with a hard-fought 3-2 victory over Honduras inside Kingston's National Stadium last night. Diva O'Gill netted a first-half brace in the 15th and 41st minutes to give the hosts a 2-0 lead at the interval. It was the first time that the Gold Cup tournament was being held at the Caribbean, and 17,874 spectators turned out to witness Jamaica gain the victory, even as they failed to produce any high-quality football. It was the first time that the Gold Cup tournament was being held in the Caribbean, and 17,874 spectators turned out to witness Jamaica gain the victory. The top two teams from each of the four groups to advance to the quarterfinals slated for Philadelphia on June 30. Over in cricket, West Indies assistant coach Ronnie Estwick has warned his side the time for excuses is over after defeat to Bangladesh left their World Cup hopes hanging by a thread. The Caribbean team started their campaign in England and Wales in impressive style, beating Pakistan by 7 wickets to have since lost to England, Australia and Bangladesh. With games to come against fancied New Zealand and India, the West Indies' chances of progressing to the semi-finals from the 10-team round-robin phase looks bleak. West Indies scored 321 for 8 in Taunton on Monday, only to be undermined by an under-par bowling display as Bangladesh cruised home with 7 wickets to spare. Former Barbados player Estwick stressed the importance of the two-time world champions sticking together in the face of adversity. He's quoted saying, "We can stand here saying, if this and if that. We didn't play well. We've lost the cricket game and that's that." End quote. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.